The firefight erupted without warning in the narrow streets of New Providence Colony. Maya Chun dove behind a crumbling wall as plasma bolts scorched the air where she'd been standing moments before. The Krell raiders had breached the outer defenses, and now chaos reigned in what had been a peaceful morning market. Through the smoke and screams, Maya spotted him, a small figure huddled against an overturned vendor cart, his iridescent scales catching the harsh light of the twin suns. A Drethian child, no more than 7 in human years, separated from his family in the pandemonium. The boy's large amber eyes were wide with terror as a Krell warrior advanced toward him, weapon raised. Maya didn't think. She ran down her legs, pumped across the 20 meters of open ground as projectile rounds kicked up dust at her heels. She reached the boy just as the Krell fired, throwing herself over his small body. The impact of the bullets hit her back like hammer blows 1, 2, 3 strikes that drove the breath from her lungs and sent white-hot agony racing through her. Nervous system. The world tilted. Maya felt the boy trembling beneath her, felt his small hands clutching at her jacket. She heard someone screaming her name, probably Jake Morrison from the militia, but the sound seemed to come from very far away. The last thing she remembered was the boy's face, those amber eyes staring up at her, and his small hand pressed against her cheek. His scales felt cool against her fevered skin. Then darkness swallowed everything. Maya woke to the sterile white ceiling of the Colony Medical Center. Every breath sent shooting pains through her torso, but she was alive. That seemed impossible given what she remembered. "Easy there, hero?" Jake's familiar voice came from her right. He sat in a chair beside her bed, his sandy hair disheveled and dark circles under his blue eyes. "You've been out for 3 days. The boy?" Her voice came out as a raspy whisper. "Safe. You saved him. His name's Zeeth, by the way. He hasn't left the medical center since they brought you in." Jake leaned forward, his expression troubled. "Maya, there's something you need to know. The doctors, they found something strange." Before Maya could ask, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo entered the room, her dark skin creased with concern. "Ms. Chun, you're awake. Good. We need to discuss your condition." Maya tried to sit up and gasped at the pain. That's when she saw them small patches of iridescent scales running along her forearms, shimmering green and blue in the fluorescent light. Her hand flew to her neck, feeling more scales there, smooth and alien against her human skin. What is this?" Panic rose in her throat. Dr. Okonkwo pulled up a chair. "We're not entirely sure. You sustained 3 bullet wounds, any one of which should have been fatal. But when we operated, we found your injuries were already healing at an impossible rate. The Drethian boy, Zeeth, apparently performed something his people call a life binding. It's a last resort measure used to save someone who saved them." "A life binding?" Maya stared at the scales on her arms. "He shared part of his genetic material with you. His scales, his accelerated healing, aspects of his physiology, they're integrating with yours. It saved your life, Maya, but it's also changing you." The doctor hesitated. "We don't know if it will stop or how far it will go." Jake stood abruptly. "There has to be a way to reverse it. Would you want to?" The small voice came from the doorway. Zeeth stood there, his scales dulled with shame, his translator collar rendering his whistling speech into accented English. His amber eyes were swimming with tears. "I didn't want to hurt you. I wanted to save you like you saved me. But I gave you scales, made you different. Now your people will fear you?" Maya's anger dissolved at the sight of his distress. She extended her scaled hand toward him. "Come here, Zeeth." The boy approached hesitantly. When he reached the bedside, Maya took his small, clawed hand in hers. "You saved my life," she said firmly. "I don't care about the scales. Do you understand? You gave me a gift. But you're not human anymore, Zeeth whispered. Not all human. Maya looked at the scales on her arm, then at Jake's worried face, then back to Zeeth. A strange calm settled over her. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Over the following weeks, Maya learned to live with the changes. More scales appeared, covering her shoulders, running down her spine. Her senses sharpened. She could hear frequencies she'd never perceived before, could see in the infrared spectrum. Her strength increased. Her reflexes quickened. The bullet's wounds healed completely, leaving no scars except the scales themselves. The human colonists' reactions varied. Some looked at her with fear, others with disgust. Children pointed and whispered. Maya felt the isolation keenly, especially when old friends seemed uncomfortable around her. But Jake stayed. And Zeeth stayed, the boy practically becoming her shadow. And when the Krell raiders returned for a second assault on New Providence, Maya discovered just how much the life-binding had given her. She moved through the battlefield like nothing human had a right to move. Her new scales deflecting glancing shots that would have torn through flesh. She pulled colonists from the line of fire with enhanced strength, her improved senses allowing her to anticipate attacks before they came. Beside her, Jake fought with renewed determination, covering her flanks as she pushed deeper into the enemy line. When the dust settled and the Krell retreated, Maya stood in the town square, breathing hard, scales gleaming with sweat and blood, none of it hers. The colonists who had whispered and pointed now stared in awe. Zeeth ran to her, his scales bright with pride. You were amazing. Jake clapped her on the shoulder, grinning despite the exhaustion in his eyes. Told you the scales were a good look. Dr. Okonkwo approached with her medical scanner, already taking readings. Remarkable. You've adapted to the Drethian traits better than anyone could have predicted. You're not just human anymore, Maya. You're not just Drethian either. You're something new. Maya looked down at her scaled hands, then at Zeeth's beaming face, then at the colonists who had survived because she'd been there to protect them. Something new. Something stronger than human alone, wiser than Drethian alone. Yeah, she said softly, a smile tugging at her lips. I guess I am. In that moment, standing between worlds, Maya Chun understood that humanity's greatest strength had never been purity or isolation. It was their capacity to adapt, to embrace change, to find strength in unity with others, even when those others had scales and spoke in whistles and came from a star. System light years away, she had shielded an alien boy from bullets. He had given her scales in return. And together, they had created something that neither species could have achieved alone. Hope for a future where the boundaries between human and alien meant less than the bonds between souls.